Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Andrew Destin alongside Eric Fensternmaker and Hunter Pitcoff. We'll be talking a little bit about the Penn State football variation of the blue-white game. The Nittany Lions welcomed just under 8,000 fans to Beaver Stadium. That's the first time they've allowed fans other than family and close friends at Beaver Stadium and had played in front of a home crowd since the Cotton Bowl. It's the first time they've actually played in front of people. So for both of you guys, Hunter, Eric, you were both allowed on site. Eric, what was it like being there in person at Beaver Stadium for this blue-white game?
Well, Hunter, I've been going to the blue-white game since I was about 2 years old. I was sitting on my mom's shoulders at my first game, couldn't even walk. This definitely had to be the weirdest time I've ever been in Beaver Stadium. It was this like juxtaposition between I can get my chicken basket, I can get my cup of hot drink, and I can sit with my friends and be in the stadium waving my shaker around being happy. But yet I'm also sitting socially distanced away from people wearing masks. So it was kind of an odd, like I'm in Beaver Stadium, but I'm also not a Penn State fan at that point. And it was weird for me for two reasons, because I didn't really know how to be a fan at the time, and I also didn't really know what to do. I felt like I'd been away for so long that it was almost like unnaturally natural to be back at home in Beaver Stadium. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Everybody knows the freshmen were the big topic of this game. The university wants to get them involved, wanted to get the younger fans at the game because they're the future generation, right? The seniors, they're kind of on their way out. They wanted to get the younger kids involved. Sorry, I know you're a senior, don't want to bring that up again. But as a freshman, they want to get those younger kids involved, and they did that in two ways. Number one, they got the band to play all the cheers with, the freshmen being new, not really being experienced. They wanted to make sure that they knew how to celebrate, cheer along, get involved. So I thought that was really cool. They got the band to really hype up the crowd. And second, they brought back a lot of players. So you talk about all the past, former, successful Penn State players. They bring back guys like Miles Sanders from the Eagles and Marcus Allen from the Steelers. That connects with both the Philly and the Pittsburgh crowd. So I thought it was cool how they got those regions involved, as Pennsylvania being Penn State being a Pennsylvania school. I thought it was really cool how they got the freshmen involved, and I would have liked to have seen the seniors, but to get the younger kids involved, I thought that was really unique. I have a brother who's a freshman. He wasn't at the game, but he made a big part of his decision going to college here based off of these football games. And me sitting in the stands, I remember my first game vividly. I talked to the president of Nittanyville. He remembers his first game vividly, and a lot of kids go for this game. So when I sat there and I watched the intro video and I saw the players run out in the field and everybody go crazy, it reminded me why I chose Penn State as a school. So I thought this game was a really cool moment for the freshmen. I hope they enjoyed it.
That was a really heartfelt story, Eric. I really just bring a tear to my eye, to be honest with you. But like you said, money talks. That's why the freshmen were there. The seniors, they're out skis. We don't need them no more. That's Penn State's mentality right there. But I don't know about you. I thought it was hilarious watching the freshmen, and they had no freaking idea what they were doing with the chants. Pre-game, during the game, post-game, they're doing the alma mater. They don't know which side to sway to or anything like that. But I have been blessed to be able to work the games during the pandemic. It was a big difference. I love what Coach Franklin said. He said that the 7,500 fans felt like 75,000 fans. And hopefully during this pandemic, we as a society can fight through it and we can get more of these opportunities like this.
Well, 2020 not only kept fans like yourselves out of Beaver Stadium, but it also presented a dilemma that Nittany Lion fans really haven't seen since the Matt McGloin-Rob Bolden era when they were both lacing up their cleats at University Park, a quarterback controversy. Now, flash forward to 2021, Will Levis has since transferred over to Kentucky, and it appears to be that new offensive coordinator Mike Yurcich is a fan of Sean Clifford. Now, neither score nor stats were kept during the game, but what did you guys think? Hunter, you first. What did you think about Clifford's performance as well as some of the other quarterbacks?
I mean, Andrew, here's meh. That's Sean Clifford. He's a meh quarterback. When things are going well around him, he can, steer the ship a little bit. But when everything, goes crazy, he sucks. Point blank, end of period. And I didn't really get any sort of sense differently. But the guy I want to look at is the guy right behind him, Jaquan Roberson. Now, I don't expect him to play a whole lot, but he definitely showed out in the spring ball. He was like Big Sean out there, like, I got the moves. The way he was moving around, running running outside the pocket, delivering dimes. I mean, that ball's got a little zip behind him when he throws it a little bit. Now, I'll calm down a little bit on the Jaquan Roberson hype train a little bit. I get it. He ordered his McDonald's meal, like, let me get a McPick-6 to Kalen King, who took it to the house. Then he proceeded to maybe miss some easy reads out there. But I liked him a lot. And let's not forget this, too. Coach Franklin loves using his backup quarterbacks by any means necessary. We saw Tommy Stevens play the Lion all over the field when he was at Penn State. Even last year, Will Levis was like another running back on those short yardage situations. Jaquan Roberson, I think at some point, hits the field. The question is how.
Yeah, I mean, just watching his highlights before he came to Penn State, that guy's a dual threat monster. He can run, he can pass, he can really do everything. But talking about Sean Clifford, like you mentioned, he's just a meh quarterback. Like, he's really average. As we saw last year, he had some trouble with his decision making, a little bit with his accuracy, some issues there too. I didn't really see anything pop off the page here. When you talk about Penn State, their history has been what? Linebacker U. If you want to talk about, the Paul Postlesny days. If you want to talk about offense, Saquon Barkley, Chris Godwin, Mike Gesicki in recent years. You're not talking about quarterbacks, right? You have to go back to like the Kerry Collins and the Todd Blackledge days. I wasn't born. My mother was walking around campus going to her accounting classes, so I wasn't even here. So when you talk about Penn State with its quarterback, it's not really a surprise that they haven't been phenomenal. So I didn't really see much here from Clifford. I liked what Robinson showed, but I think in the end, Clifford's going to be the guy. He'll get the majority of the snaps, so I think it'll be interesting to see how they work him in.
I'm with you about Collins and Blackledge, but got to throw Michael Robinson some love too. He was a pretty good quarterback here. But the case with most blue-white games, there were some notable off-the-field moments, like Drew Hartlaub. He got a scholarship after a conversation with Nittany Lion great and linebacker Jack Ham. But still, there were a number of developments on the field itself that raised eyebrows. So, Eric, I'll turn to you first. What were some moments that you thought were pretty impressive, or some impressive plays to you?
Well, I mean, you want to talk about heartwarming stories, I'll go with some inspiration. So I'm leaving Beaver Stadium. I'm walking back to my dorm room. I'm all excited. I'm all fired up. I turn my key in my door, I grab my dirty clothes, I go down to the basement of my building, and I start doing my laundry because of all the laundry I saw on the field. I mean, it's a blue and white game, and all I see is blue, white, and yellow with all the penalties Penn State had. Now, when you talk about Penn State last season, they were actually 10th least in the top 10 in penalties per game with 4.3, second in the Big Ten to Indiana. Yet, you wouldn't have got that opinion from watching the blue-white game. Now, the one area of concern I have when we talk about Sean Clifford is a lot of those penalties were holding. So if the pocket's going to break down and Sean Clifford doesn't have that time and space to operate, he's really going to struggle. So when I saw Penn State with all the penalties, I was both surprised and alarmed. And that's a very easy thing to correct, just kind of work on your fundamentals and get things right. But if Penn State can't do that long term, it's not going to be a very good season. And Penn State did struggle last year, so to get back to that former glory, they have to do the small things right and correct the penalties.
Yeah, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. We both saw it out there. There definitely was a little sloppy, but it's April. We'll see how they are in August, September, October, etc. And if they can clean that up, like you said, they were one of the worst teams in committing penalties last year. But I'll take a little bit more of a half glass more full approach here. And I got to give credit to the secondary. I mean, I talked about Kalen King, how he was an absolute monster, living up to that King status. And I think he's going to be one of the best up-and-coming corners in the Big Ten. Coach Franklin has nothing but nice things to say about him. He's an absolute freak. With Tariq Castro-Fields coming back, with Jaquan Brisker coming back, they got Keenan Ellis there and Joey Porter there. This secondary, I actually think, is one of the strongest parts of this team, which you can't really say about Penn State. That's typically their Achilles heel, but the secondary is going to show out for Penn State this year, and it's one of the most talented groups they've had in quite some time. And you know what? I want to shout out Tank Smith. This guy is a 5'7", 230-pound running back. That's right. I don't think he's going to hit the field a whole lot, but he had 2 touchdowns, both one in the air and on the ground as well. There's a big running back room there. I'm not sure he's going to get some playing time, but he's only a true freshman. Give Tank some carries. Please do it. He might not be the next Maurice Jones-Drew, but maybe he can be pretty close.
An impressive stat from Hunter there, talking about Tank Smith, somebody that you don't see a ton, but somebody who will be worth monitoring, as well as the rest of that deep running back room. Well, that will do it for our breakdown of Penn State's adaptation of the blue-white game. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Eric Fensternmaker and Hunter Pitcoff, I'm Andrew Destin, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.